Happy New Year, everyone. Today is New Year's Day, 2018, a brand new video for a brand new year. My name is Eric, KJ4YZI with HamRadioConcepts. If you haven't heard of me yet, click the subscribe button over here below and turn on notifications so when videos like this are posted, you get them in your email. Also follow on Facebook.com/HamRadioConcepts to stay real close and personal on what's going on. So, a brand new video for a brand new year. I had fun yesterday, New Year's Eve, and big changes, hopefully some more entertaining stuff, hopefully a lot of New Year's resolutions that are going to be kept. We'll see how long I handle that. But anyways, so imagine this. With all that you know with ham radio so far and all you've learned and all the stuff that you do, imagine that we have our own, call it like an internet backbone for amateur radio. I want to tell you something here. This will be a part 1 of 2. Something that I've done a while ago, and then I dropped off and fell off of it. But I think it's really beneficial, and the growth that this has seen since I played with it 2 years ago is blowing up. What is it? Imagine taking something like this. This is a consumer router, pretty old in these days if you're talking about high-speed wireless. This is a Linksys Wireless G router. And what you can do with this in ham radio is called high-speed mesh networking, high-speed multimedia mesh. High speed, call it Broadband Hamnet. We have like our own infrastructure that we can join across the United States and across the world using something that we can find on eBay or Craigslist or yard sales nowadays for $3, $4, $5. Let's talk about Broadband Hamnet for ham radio. So if someone said, Eric, what is Broadband Hamnet? Just give me an idea what it is. Well, I'm going to try to explain this in at least 5 minutes, and then I'll show you some stuff. In this video, we'll go over a bunch of things. You should learn a lot from this video. Now, let's pretend this. Broadband Hamnet. Let's say you were in California. I was in Florida. We each had something like this Linksys WRT54 router. And let's say there was a bunch of people in between us, thousands of people in between us. We have the option of using mesh networking to connect me to you over 2.4 gigahertz spectrum without any internet. Now, believe it or not, if you didn't know, if you're a newcomer to the hobby or you just haven't researched it or you're not familiar with it, 2.4 gigahertz, we have a slice of band plan there for ham radio use. Now, that happens to fall in the beginning of the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi spectrum that people use every day to watch videos like this on YouTube. You know, everybody uses Wi-Fi now, smartphones, and now Wi-Fi is moving into 5 gigahertz because of the faster speeds. But 2.4 gigahertz, so a lot of people say, well, I'll never use that for ham radio, but actually you can, because something like this, a consumer device, and the site I'll show you, with all the people that are into this, you can flash this with a different firmware, which now turns it into a ham radio device using the ham radio 2.4 gigahertz frequencies. Set this up on a auto-configuring mesh network that will automatically, once you set it up, join any mesh networks nearby and configure it automatically, okay? And give us the option to feed internet into it and to connect other people on mesh networking for various uses like sending files, running servers, sharing files, IP networking, IP cams, IP phone calls, and probably a slew of other things. So the people that always say, what happens when the grid goes down? Yeah, you do have HF, you do have System Fusion. Well, System Fusion, DMR, D-Star are internet dependent. So without internet, those are not going to work. But PSK, RIDI, FT8, you know, different modes of communications to send text. But something a little more robust than APRS and, you know, digital HF radio is something like Broadband Hamnet. So imagine I can send you a file across the United States if we had thousands of people in between. The more people that get on this type of technology, the more people that join it, will make this network larger and more robust. Now I'm going to show you in this video how mesh networking works so you can get an idea. Mesh networking is not only ham radio, but used also for Wi-Fi, businesses, consumer devices, and such. I'll also tell you about which devices you can get on and how to flash the one that I have here. So that way you can see how easy this is. put a firmware on it, configure it with a couple options, and you're done. It's not hard. So buy a $3 or $5 router. Find somebody throwing one away. Look on QRZ, look on eBay, look on Craigslist. Find one of these. You can also do Ubiquiti gear. Now, I'm not familiar with Ubiquiti hardware, but if you're a Ubiquiti person or you have one or access to one, you can get that as well. Various antennas that you can use for this. The map showing you how many people are already actively participating in this. Now, when I started checking this out a couple years ago, I actually was going to make a video on it, and I didn't. But I fell out of the interest. Now I'm back into it because I think this concept is pretty awesome. To be a ham radio operator, take a device like this, flash it to ham radio frequencies and uses, and connect with other people around me and talk to anybody using one. So it's like our own little internet backbone, without the internet. And people can feed internet into the mesh network. So here's another option. Let's say I'm mobile. Let's say I'm a QRP portable somewhere away from my home, and I had one of these portables set up, connected to my laptop, and there's somebody on a mesh network near me. I have an antenna set up, and I beam to where they are or connect where they are, and I can get internet from them and also do my thing through the mesh network. The internet may be coming from somebody 400 miles north of me, but it's taking that route to me. Now, keep in mind, with amateur guidelines and FCC rules and regulations, you and the node person are responsible for what you're doing on the internet. So if you want to stream porn over it, it's probably not a good idea. But using this for logging software, somebody, if they were in a portable operation and they needed internet for logging or whatever, and they had one of these set up, it's a great idea. So we're going to check this stuff out here, and I won't try to make it too long because I know a lot of people want me to get to the point, but there's a lot of information to explain to keep you informed and teach you everything in a video. So this video, I'll get you set up with it. The next video, we'll see what we can do with it. Hopefully I have mine set up and see what we can do with it and maybe get some more people in my area interested so I have other mesh nodes to connect to. So let's get on with it. All right, so looking at the router first. Now, if you're interested or have one of these, the first thing you want to note, and I'll show you on the site, is on the bottom of this device, you want to note the model number. Very important. This is a let's see if I can find it here. There it is, WRT54G version 2.2 right there on the top left of that sticker. Now, there are certain models of this that do not work because of the available onboard memory size. Now, I had a GS version 5, wouldn't work. But the G versions, the GL versions, which I think the GL are a Linux version, if I remember, can be used because of the available firmware or the available RAM size on the unit. So you've sourced one of these. Perfect. You're going to want to factory reset it, wipe out all the settings. Okay, and we'll go into that in a minute. Now, the next thing is, where do you put this? Well, you could leave this on your desk. All right. If you're a half mile from somebody and this is on your desk, no good. So what a lot of people do is they put this outside. Now, my intentions back in the day when I tried this were to mount this in an outdoor box, and I've seen many people do this online. They mount this in an outdoor box with a battery and a solar panel, and they mount it like this, and they have the Cat5 come from here to the computer and solved. That's an option. Another option is, which I found here for the video, something I bought a couple years ago that I forgot about. Let's say that unit's up there and I don't want a battery or a solar panel up there. I want to make it easier. Well, for like $6 I bought these. And what this is for sending power over Ethernet with the Ethernet connection. Now, I could take this one here, all right? I could plug this into my computer. I could plug the power adapter into here, and it outputs with an Ethernet. I can send an Ethernet up 50 feet to a tower, and on the other side that this is plugged into, here's my power, and here is my Ethernet to go into the router. Now that enables you power over Ethernet with the Ethernet connection, one cable going up there. You don't have to have a battery and a solar panel and a solar charger and all that stuff. That was my idea, was this, and this was like $6 on eBay. So Ethernet, regular 10/100 Ethernet is only using 2 pairs, pins 1, 2, 3, and 6. So 4, 5, 7, 8 are used for nothing unless you're on a gigabit, which is 1,000. So in that case, I can use 1 pair in here to send power up to the unit and not have to worry about anything but a weatherproof enclosure to put this outside. Okay. Now, if you're in a congested area and you do put it up 40 feet in the air with the stock antennas, that may work for you. In my situation, there's nobody close to me where I'm going to have to use an external antenna. So the antennas here come off. These are reverse polarity TNC connectors. And you can find the adapters on Amazon and on eBay as well to connect this to an external antenna. You know, they make 5-foot Wi-Fi antennas with serious gain. I have a TP-Link 24 dB antenna, a parabolic dish for Wi-Fi. So the advantage of putting this outside, because you may say, well, why don't I leave this in the house and just run an antenna outside? Because at that frequency, with the low power, this is only 400 milliwatts or so, probably less than that. I know 400 milliwatts is a stock consumer device. I'm not sure if it changed with the Broadband Hamnet. With half a watt or less, the loss in the coax, you're going to eat it up before you even get to the antenna. So no good. That's why people mount these up top and they put a 1 foot or a half a foot pigtail from here to an external antenna so that you're not losing all your signal in loss on coax. That's the reason people are putting this outside. But if you're in an apartment complex, you're up on a 5th floor, there's somebody across the street from you with an antenna that's got a Yagi in one of these and he's facing another one, you may be able to jump onto his just the way this sits in your apartment. So that's, 2.4 gigahertz is line of sight. So with that being said, line of sight, you have to have a high gain antenna and be up higher and be close to somebody. So with that being said, let me show you an antenna, what it looks like, or a couple options of antennas, and then I'll show you the site on where all this magic happens, the creators and the moderators and the Elmers of this Broadband Hamnet. Now here is the antenna that I have, and you can check this antenna out on a video on my YouTube where I used it with a Wi-Fi adapter to feed off of a public Wi-Fi hotspot and feed our field day camp with internet for our computers for logging from like a quarter mile away. So it works really well. This is the TP-Link 2.4 gigahertz 24 dBi grid parabolic antenna. And this one's very popular. I've seen these on microwave rovers from people using them for, ham radio on 2.4 gigahertz. I've seen them on buildings transmitting Wi-Fi from one building to another. And it's a really solid construction. It's a popular antenna. It's got an end-female connector. It's got like a piece of coax. And I don't have this antenna here to show you in hand. I got to get it back. It's got like a really, really low loss coax, like a foot long with the end female on it. So you're going to need a pigtail adapter to connect from that end to the TNC on the back of the router. And those you can find on Amazon for $5 or $10 for the appropriate connectors. And you can mount it horizontal or vertical, and you can stack several together for additional gain. So I had mine horizontal, and you can see here the beam width is very narrow when it's horizontal. So with that, I was looking online, and the cheapest one I could find for you, the cheapest site, I've never ordered from ProVantage at all, but it looks like they have it for $38, 304 of them in stock. And on this site, they do show the model numbers for the TP-Link pigtail cable and antenna extension cable. Now, you probably just want to stick with, I don't know how long these models are, but you probably want to stick with the shortest one with the best coax you could find for minimum loss, and mount the mesh unit in a box right behind this antenna instead of having 10 feet of coax, so you minimize your loss. But it's a really good antenna. Now, if you're looking for something like an omnidirectional antenna, on Amazon I was looking, TP-Link does make a 12 dBi outdoor omni here, probably a few feet long. And there are some other models here that I haven't tried any of these, but the TP-Link looks to be the most affordable. You can set 2 of these up on both of the antenna connectors, or use an omni for receive, like I want to do, and the dish for transmit. Because receive, I can receive from multiple directions, and if I know where there's one mesh node that I want to connect to, I can use the dish for transmit, or 2 dishes. So there are options out there. It is not that much money to get an antenna or 2 for this project. Here's the site with all the information, broadband-hamnet.org, and there's a lot of stuff on here. You see this here, who's online? 295 guests and 1 member. I guess I'm the member. But when I was intrigued by this a couple years ago, there was like 2 guests online and then 1 member. So it's really picking up. And to show you, so on here, there's all kinds of stuff about which hardware to use. It will show you, Linksys devices and why some work and some won't. If you look at applications here, remote control HF rig over mesh. An APRS receive only iGate. But here's one thing that you could do. You could feed internet to your D-Star or DMR node repeater site using a mesh. If someone's got internet going in or you got internet going into yours from your house, you can beam the mesh to the repeater site, take the internet off of that, and feed the repeater with it. That's a great way to get a internet connection to a repeater site that doesn't have any internet there. So another benefit for that. If you look, I want to show you something here. If we go back, I want to show you the map here. And the map will show you what's in your area. Get on the map right here. If you click this, now check this map out. I'm going to log in again. All right. This map here has a lot of nodes on here since the beginning of this. Now, the little icons are showing the Linksys ones, but again, I guess they have ubiquity devices going and such. But take a look at this in the States here. Now, you can see up in New England, a lot of them. Over toward California, Texas, a lot of them. For some reason, there's a hotbed up here in Utah and Florida. So now if I zoom in, I'm going to zoom into my area here. All right. Now, you see this big gap here? This is where I'm at, somewhere about right here. And there's a lot of stuff going down here, but right here there's nothing. And I want to get this gap bridged because that would give us access to a lot of different mesh nodes. I doubt there's going to be anything in between Florida here, but looking at this, see? So here's Vero Beach, and you got some nodes down here, and then there's nothing here in Vero Beach. And then up here in Orlando, there's some. So if I go out now, let's go to a heavily populated area. Let's look at Utah here. Salt Lake City. So you got a bunch of them here. Right here in Salt Lake City. Or down here in, where's Texas at? There we go. Okay, there's a whole slew of them here in Texas. So this is catching on. It would be a while before we fill in everything, but if you had a connection, let's pretend all of these are in communication range. All right. So all of these would have the ability to talk or transfer with one another. To give you an idea of how this works in a little bit a clearer picture, let me show you how mesh networks work. So looking at this picture about mesh networking I found on Google, I added a couple call signs. So let's say I'm here, I'm the red one, all right? And let's say W2LKD here is a mesh node over here. Now, in order for me, when I add my mesh node, it automatically configures and says, hey, I have a connection to these four here, and they have a connection to wherever. So if I wanted to establish a connection with W2LKD here, I could essentially, it would take the path, the quickest, most efficient path. So it may go to K4CPJ, KI4LUI, KV4S to W2LKD. But it could also go and bypass K4CPJ. It may say this is a better route, right to KI4LUI to KV4S to W2LKD. Or it may go to K4CPJ, KI4LUI to this node up here, and then back down. It takes, it has all these options. So now let's say I'm in an area and I have a connection and I'm over here somewhere. If I had a connection to the KJ4YZI, just one, let's say that's the only one I could reach, well, I still have access to all of this, because as long as I can get in the KJ4YZI mesh, it's going to access all of these. So I don't necessarily have to see or be in range of all these. As long as I can get to one of these here, let's say I'm up here in the top corner here and I can only see KM4MCK, but he has an established mesh link to all the other ones. If I can get in the KM4MCK, then his mesh is going to relay for me to the shortest path or the most efficient path of where I want to go. So that's kind of what's happening on that mesh map that you see on the Google Maps on that site. Is hopefully everybody on that site in that area is connected, and all those people have the ability like this to transfer files, share internet, and do whatever you want to do or what's eligible to be done on this type of infrastructure. And the more we add to it, the better and more robust it would be. What I showed you on the Google Maps, where I have a dead spot in my area, let's say I have some mesh nodes down here, and then these are all up in another city, and I was the one in between, or I was one in between two different mesh groups, and now my node would be the one connecting these nodes to these nodes. So I'd be bridging the gap, if I was right here. So it really is necessary to expand this to get more people involved in between to build a bigger and stronger network. I would love to see what would happen if we had something from Florida to California. I wonder how long it would take or what the speed would be to go all the way across. That would be pretty interesting. Let me show you how easy it is to update the firmware. If you go to software download here, you're going to pick your device, Linksys or Ubiquiti. Now, I mentioned a couple times the WRT54G that I have and keep referring to that. There is a lot of other options. These here, I think all of these models here have an external antenna. So it's not every Linksys device ever made, but they have the firmwares for these devices. And here's mine down here, WRT54G and GL. There's a GS, but again, you have to make sure you got the right GS. But one thing to remember is I like the 54G and GL and GS almost the same because it's got two antennas. And the two antennas can be set up separately for receive and transmit. I'll show you that in a second. But you're going to download the appropriate software or firmware, and here's how you flash it. Now, the magic of turning it into a ham mesh node from a consumer Linksys Wi-Fi router is a simple firmware update. So what I'm going to do is I downloaded the firmware upgrade I showed you for my device, and I'm going to go, the address for a Linksys device by default is 192.168.1.1. When you go there, it'll take you to a page, probably say admin or user ID and password. It's admin for user ID, admin for password. And it takes you to the Wi-Fi setup page for the consumer device. But we're going to go to administration, and I'm going to click on firmware upgrade, and I'm going to choose the file that I downloaded. Now, if I can find it in my mess here, let's see. Here it is. Okay, so here's the firmware. It's a bin file, and you make sure, again, that you have the correct firmware for your device so you don't brick it. So I'm going to choose my bin, and I'm going to upgrade. Now, right now, it is flashing this device and turning it into a HamNet mesh node. No longer will it be a Linksys consumer Wi-Fi device. At that point, when it's done, we will check out the configuration page and see what it looks like now. If you get the upgrade is successful screen, you've done something right. So at this point, it's no longer a consumer device. Your HamNet firmware is loaded onto it. So what you're going to do is, with it plugged directly into your computer with an Ethernet cable right to port 1 on the device, I had to reset, after the firmware update, it reboot, but I had to reset the unit again and let the computer get a new IP from it before it worked. So if you have to do that. Then you're going to go to http://local node :8080 and hit enter. And it's going to take you now to the configuration page, no longer a Linksys one. And I've played in here, so I'll just touch on what I did. Click on setup, or if it's new, it'll say it's not set up yet. So you want to name it. I just named it KJ4YZI. Probably put your call sign in there. It's the best thing. That's not your SSID, so just put your call sign in and a password. Make sure your password is secure. This is not on the network yet, so I'll just tell you it's my call sign. But you want to put a secure password so nobody can log into it from somewhere else and change your stuff. mesh node here. And then I didn't play with anything else. I know the SSID has to be the same. Do not change this, because this is what makes a mesh. Again, a mesh has to be, all of them are on the same network, and it does the traffic depending on where it needs to go. If you change it, it's going to be different than every other mesh node out there. The antennas, though, I'll talk about real quick. They're set to diversity right now. Now, you have the ability on this to set, say, the left. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the left antenna as an omnidirectional for receive, and the transmit right antenna as a Yagi facing the next closest node to me. Because in my area, there's nowhere between, West Palm and Orlando. So if somebody pops up north of me a few miles, I'm going to face it directly at them and hope they get somebody. If you looked at the map before, you saw that in certain areas where it's congested, you can probably get away with 2 omnis outside and receive from all and transmit from all different directions. So you have that option. I'm going to leave it here just for example, but I'm going to do that. Or you can do 2 Yagis, one facing south, one facing north, or 2 dishes, one facing north, one facing south, and be the bridge between 2 cities if you can reach it. And that's cool there. Then you want to apply here your changes. And when you're done, click Save. And it's going to, if it's new, it's going to reboot it and save the changes. Now, the first time when it comes up, see, reboot is required, but the first time it comes up, once you save the changes, you can no longer see this on wireless. Again, when you do the firmware, you have the option of setting this up wireless this first time or hardwired. I'd say hardwired would be the easiest. But after that, when I reboot, you're no longer going to see it as a wireless node to connect to. So at that point, you're going to use this address, one of these here, to connect to it to see the status, who you're connected to, and operating parameters and stuff like that. So, at this point, when this reboots, it is now a mesh node. And it's auto-configuring. It automatically jumps onto a mesh network, and that's it. It's done. Another picture here of an example in Texas of a mesh network. And look at this. So, again, multiple paths and, multiple options for redundancy and considerations for the link and the link between nodes. So it may say, okay, when I want to go from B to A, my fastest and most efficient route is here to here to here to here to here. Even though it may be one less hop somewhere else, maybe that route with one less hop has a lot of errors in it. It may remember the fastest and most efficient route. Utilizing something like this in ham radio to build our network of something like this for emergency communications, for fun, for when the grid goes down, or that'd be the same as emergency, but it's just something that we could do that's not as expensive as setting up repeater networks and DMR and Fusion and all this. And, live chat, IRC chat. You can have a chat room in here with multiple people on here. You can share your IP camera from your ham shack and share it on here, and people can log into that and watch the cam or check. Maybe you want to have a propagation or a spotter network at your house, and you put it live on mesh, and other people can do it over mesh and see what your conditions are through however you would do that, whether it be an IP cam or such, and see how it is at your place, and without having to use the internet. It's just a fascinating concept, and it's something that these guys, thanks to everybody on the site who is involved in this, the forums are just littered with information. I mean, I'm still on the forums reading stuff. The guys on here that are experts on this, with the firmware, with the errors and the antennas and discussion on different devices, really have it under wraps. All I'm here for is to teach you something and show you about it in case you weren't aware of it. For the professional advice and the people that have been doing this for a long time, this is the place to go. Broadbandhamnet.org, and check out all about that. And go on eBay, go on Craigslist, and look up, even post a thing on QRZ looking for old routers. I'm sure someone out there would be more than happy to give you one if you pay for shipping if they don't want to do this. So a very easy way to get onto here. And it looks like over here in Europe they're doing the same thing. Now the green is tunneled, so that might be an internet link connecting across the pond. However, if the internet went down, we'd have no RF across the pond, but that'd be a tunnel from one to the other. So however that works, I'm not sure, but you may be able to access over to here once you get to the appropriate node in the US to hit the tunnel to go over here. But there are people out here in Europe that are also practicing this, and I hope this video, being as long as it was informational. And please leave your comments below. Tell me what you think. I love hearing from you guys, and all. Maybe you're an expert at mesh nodes. Maybe you want to add some information that I forgot. Put it on there. Put it on the comments. Give a thumbs up for the effort, and for the effort of this video. Give me a thumbs up. And Happy New Year. I hope this video was entertaining and informative at the same time. Let me know what you think, and in the future I'll do a part 2, and maybe when I get this all set up I'll show you how I did it, how it's working for me if I get another node in the area, or I'll set up 2 here and I'll see what I can do from one end of the house to the other on a mesh node. Thanks for watching as always, and 7-3 from KJ4YZI.